Hey, this is Meridith Elliott Powell, and welcome to another episode of Thriving in Uncertainty, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the steps, everything that you need to know to turn all of this uncertainty to your competitive advantage. And I've got to tell you, you are in for a treat today because I think that we are going to talk about one of the most important things when it comes to dealing with uncertainty, and that is mindset. If you can get your mindset right, probably everything takes care of itself. So I have the authority, the true guru of mindset with me today. Super excited to be announcing and bringing to you Umar Hameed. Welcome, Umar.
Hey, Meredith. Thanks so much for having me on the show. This is going to be a great conversation.
It is going to be a great conversation because who doesn't need a little bit of help with mindset? But
a lot.
Before we jump in, why don't you tell our listeners just a little bit about you, how you got into working on mindset, and what exactly you do?
So it's my lifelong mission is to help people figure out what in here stops them from being exceptional. And also when you come across people that are doing something freaking fantastic, how do you do that? And the answer I would get is, I don't know, or, wow, this is how I do it. Umar, it's A, B, C, D, E. And then you go to someone that's getting like mediocre results. How do you do what you do? Top two answers, I don't know, or A, B, C, D, E. And it's, wait a minute, you both can't be doing the same thing and getting dramatically different results. And it turns out mindset, most of it is just under our awareness. Something magical is happening there that allows us to show up in a way. And so that's been my life's mission. And I've been doing that full time since 2003, but since as long as I can remember. And later on, I can talk about what really drives me. But that in a nutshell is it.
So
behavior, yeah.
So if I'm understanding what you're saying is it's almost like a different energy that vibrates under me when we're talking about mindset. Is that accurate? I mean, how would you describe it?
That's as good as any. A good way of describing it is this, is that let's say instead of a snowy day out there, it was a sunny day, and I put my hand out, my hand would create a shadow on the ground, right? Mm-hmm. And so we take a look at the shadow, and from the shadow, we can see the outline of a hand, and it might be distorted depending on how far away it is, but you can go, hey, there's a hand there. And so what happens is oftentimes what we see is the shadow of our mindset. It's like when I go and I talk about what we do, I am powerful and strong and amazing. And as soon as I go and talk about money, all of a sudden there's weakness in my voice cracks. All of a sudden, because I've got hangups around money, it shows up in the shadow. And it's like, we can't do anything with the shadow. We need to figure out what in our mindset is causing it. So just recently I was on a group coaching call, and this one woman was talking about, I'm having a great conversation, people. And then I go to ask them about joining my program. And as she's talking about ask them to join my program, her hand goes to her head like this. And I asked them to do this. And it's like, oh my God, your body language is transmitting that this is such a headache for you, that something's coming up. And does this woman that was talking believe what she offers has value? Absolutely 100%. Does she get feedback from her customers that she's doing something amazing? 100%. But when she goes to ask for the money, something comes up and her body language shows it. And when she's talking to a client, I'm sure she doesn't do that, but the way she asks, the questions, the tonality transmit that I feel uncomfortable about talking about money. Mm-hmm. And then people start thinking maybe your program isn't that great and maybe I shouldn't invest. And so that is what I want to fix.
So where do we start? Well, let me ask you this. What are some of the biggest challenges you think that people have around mindset? I mean, if I just start with my mindset and things will start to get better, why doesn't everybody just jump on board and start to work on their mindset?
So let me do a little bit of teaching first, and I'll answer your question specifically. Okay. But I want to tell you a cute little story. My sister used to work at this Blockbuster video store in Brampton, Ontario, Canada. And two of her customers went to China to adopt a young girl who was 5. And it took them like several months to kind of get it done. And they came to the store and they brought their new daughter into the store. And my sister said, "Hey, how are you doing?" And then she went to meet this little girl, and this is what the little girl did. She goes, "Hi, I'm adopted." And she was joyous and so happy. Whereas a lot of other people go, "Yeah, I was adopted. My parents didn't want me." And it just scars them for their life. And for this little girl, it was like somebody adopted me. It was the best thing ever. And that's all mindset, right?
Right.
So here's how a lot of people have this issue, is that we have three versions of ourselves. We have one version that we show the outside world. And sometimes that version is, look at me, I'm pretty, or I'm smart, or I'm amazing. And you know people like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's another group of people that show the outside world, I'm broken, I'm a victim, and nothing ever goes right. Both of those are illusions that we show the outside world. Then we have something that's different. It's called the delusion. And the delusion is, this is who I think I am. Like, Meridith, you may not know this, but I think I'm funnier than I actually am. Truly do. And then there's a third spot. And the third spot is who I authentically am deep down inside and who you are. And I think of the stress of balancing those three of, I need to show the outside world this version of me, but this is who I really am. But then there's an authentic self. And I think part of the mindset journey is uncovering who we truly deeply are. And once we know that, there's no more reason to have this delusion of who I think I am. And as soon as you do that, a lot of your headaches go away. And if you're strong enough, this is what you show the outside world. So there's only one you. And you've probably heard this in our travels where somebody says, this person, they're the same person on stage as they are in private, as they are when they're just by themselves. And there's something safe about that person. And that person has a mindset that allows them to go, I'm comfortable in my skin, and this is what's going to show up in the world. There's not enough people out there like that. And what stops people is mindset.
So where do we start with mindset? Because here's what I've always felt about mindset is that it is a journey I have been on for a long time. In that really getting my mindset strong. I mean, to me, I don't feel like it's been an overnight fix. And while I feel like my mindset has gotten much stronger, I still catch the negativity. I still catch the lack of confidence in myself. I still catch those things. So how do you start to peel that layer, to get down to that, to understand, even to have the awareness, like I didn't even understand my mindset was a problem for years. So to even begin to think that you've got to work on mindset.
So I'm going to give you three things you need to be aware of. And believe it or not, Meridith, I don't know what the three things are right now. The first one, well, we'll figure it out as we go. And that's, part of it. Like, I have total 100% confidence in my abilities that I'm going to be able to help someone in the way that they need. Sometimes I don't know how I'm going to help, but just that mindset really helps. So here's step one. Step one is this. Are you going to have instances, you and dear viewers and listeners, are you going to have instances where somebody says something and it makes you feel really bad inside?
Absolutely.
And so what we do is we do one of two things that when that happens is like, I can't believe that SOB had and we get angry at that person for probably speaking the truth. Bastards. And two, or we have this like, I'm a terrible person and I'm no good. So this is what I recommend. And Meridith, if you want to be brave, if you can think about one of those times, maybe this year or last year, where somebody said something that kind of maybe hurt your feelings. Do you have one of those things? Don't share what it was, but do you have one of those memories come up?
Oh, sure. Yeah, exactly.
So I want you to go back to that moment, and I want you to see what you saw back then when this thing happened, and hear what you heard back then. And when you do those two things, you get to re-experience what you were feeling in your body, that negative feeling. Where in your body do you feel that?
I feel it right here, right around my heart.
Okay, what I want you to do is put your hand there for a moment, and I want you to just say, hello, and then ask that feeling, what are you trying to teach me? What do you need me to know? And see what answer comes up.
Okay. The answer that's coming up for me is that I need to find my voice.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that and being brave doing that. Is oftentimes the feeling comes up and we're so tuned to Oh, it's uncomfortable. I need to move away from that. I'm going to distract myself with alcohol, booze, chocolate. I'm guilty on that, by the way. Or I'm going to get angry at the person, or I'm going to beat myself up. And none of those things are helpful except the chocolate. But what is useful is just that one simple thing. Hello. What are you trying to teach me? And it says, you need your voice. And then you can go, okay, how could I get that voice to come up? And if you don't know, you can reach out to a friend or a mentor, or just ask the question. And sometimes asking the question reveals it, but you get insight. So our emotions are the most important thing ever. And the emotions that we love is when I feel sexy, when I feel happy, when I feel powerful, and all of those are brilliant. Mm-hmm. But even on those, when I feel powerful, it's like, hello, what do you want me to know? And you'll get an answer that'll help you be even more powerful, but more so in the negative emotions, because they are power. And just by asking that, it gives you insight where to explore. So that's the first step, is doing that. Mm-hmm. The second step is this, using the same technique. It's Meridith. Tell me about a particular time where you felt freaking fantastic. It could have been when you closed a sale, or you were with your significant other and they said something. Do you have one of those memories where you felt amazing?
Absolutely.
So go back to that memory, and I want you to see what you saw back then and hear what you heard back then. And when you do those two things, you get to re-experience that feeling. But this time, it's a really positive feeling, right? Where do you feel that feeling? See what you saw, hear what you heard. Where do you feel it?
I feel it. I feel that one like down in my gut.
Yeah. So I want you to hold that feeling there. And then I want you to imagine you have a volume knob in front of you. Mm-hmm. And I want you to crank that volume knob up and turn that feeling up.
Okay.
And let me know, is it turning up?
It's turning way up.
Crank it up even more so it starts radiating through your entire body. Crank it up even more so you're like broadcasting it. And when you do that, I want you to make a fist with your hand. Just do that now. Feel that feeling. See what you saw back then. Hear what you heard back then. Crank up the feeling just a little bit more, and then make a fist again. And then make a fist again one more time. And then let all of that go. Take a deep breath. Let it go. And Meridith, what I want you to do is I want you to think of a particular time where you were late for a meeting that was really important.
Oh, yeah.
It feels pretty bad, right?
It feels awful.
Yeah. So I wanted you to feel awful because, I'm that kind of guy. But I wanted you not to feel wonderful for a second. So you felt something different. So take a deep breath and let that go. And now what I want you to do is, in a moment, I'm going to tell you to make a fist. And when you make that fist, the feeling is going to come back. When it comes back, I want you to pump your fist up and say, yeah, baby. So make a fist when you feel the feeling. Go, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, baby.
So instantly. So you can decide how you want to feel in any situation. So when the day is going sideways, or you got a customer who's being an idiot, or your spouse is being an idiot, or you said something hurtful to somebody that you love, you were busy on a call and you went, not now. And then you saw what happened on their face and it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. It can haunt you for a day. And all you need to do is let that feeling go and just go like this. And instantly you're going to feel that powerful feeling. And then you can do what you're doing, then go back to that person and say, hey, I'm so sorry I did that. Mm-hmm. So the first one was how to decode that feeling so you can learn something, get an insight. The second one is deciding how you want to feel. Now, here's the third one. So there are situations where, Meridith, you are probably masterful at handling those situations, right? Mm-hmm. In your wheelhouse. And there's probably other areas that you go and do something. And when you go to do that thing, you kind of suck at it because it's not just, for whatever reason, that's just not, we all suck at something, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So what's one of the areas that you're not as awesome as you are in other areas? What's that one field or area? What would that be?
I'm not that. I suck at the details. I mix stuff up all the time. I put appointments wrong on my calendar. I'm rotten at details.
So let's say who is someone that you know that is really good at that kind of stuff?
Yeah, one of my very best friends is amazing. One reason she's my friend, she dots every I and crosses every T.
And what's her name? First name?
Her first name is April.
April. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about something you need to do that's going to be more detailed this afternoon for you. And before you think about what that is, I want you to don her mask for a moment and put her mask on for a moment and just from her eyes, look at your rest of your afternoon. And what's the one thing she would recommend that you do that would make things more organized? What would that thing be if you put on her mask?
Yeah, I can tell you in a heartbeat. She would tell me to block the time before I leave the office to just double check everything and make sure that things are entered that need to be entered. And then I'm clear that my calendar looks good. She would tell me to make the time with nothing. Don't multitask. Just focus on that.
So I was coaching this one guy who's a sales guy who should know better. And I asked him, so, you're talking to your customers and what do you tell them you do? Like, what's the value? Tell me what you guys do. And the guy told me this: boring, 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 never work with me, boring, boring. And I said, okay. So I happen to know his CEO, who is a dynamic, magnetic personality and is really, really clear at communicating. I said, do me a favor, put on Chip's mask for a moment. He goes, this is weird, but okay. So tell me what you do. And he goes, we help companies increase their revenues by 50% instantly. So I didn't tell him what to say. I didn't workshop on him what he was doing. So what that means is that oftentimes we know what to do in here, but it's not coming out because we let ourselves, like dumb old Umar, do it. Like there's areas where I'm freaking fantastic, but there's other areas where it's like, I'm not so, and all I need to do is, Gracie is really good at this one area. And if I don her mask for a moment, how would she do it? And all of a sudden I go, Meridith, don't panic. I want you to do these 3 things, and I'm going to be elegant and powerful. And that's all mindset, right? So I just showed you 3 simple techniques that anybody can do that would allow you to just change your freaking life. Just think about it. The first one is all those negative things that come up that we bottle down and shy away from. You start getting answers like, speak your voice. It's like, oh, how do I do that? As soon as you start doing that, all that negative stuff, I can make the same negative comment to you, but it will not have that impact because that issue isn't there anymore because you figured it out. The second one I showed you is how to decide how you show up in life. And the third one is, how can you improve your performance like instantly just by using the simple mind hack of using a mask? Mm-hmm. So never use the mask of Jason from those horror movies. Other than that, you're doing okay.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. So what I love about this conversation is the importance of grabbing hold of emotions. And I had I don't know what you would call her, a teacher or something, tell me years ago that emotions are like a tidal wave, like the ocean. If they come into you and you fight them, they'll beat you up and you'll get stuck in those emotions. If you just are aware of them, accept them, lay into them, they'll pass through you fairly quickly, so, and I've really been struck by emotions, like in having this whole idea of, I think one of the most powerful things that you said is to really say, what emotion really am I feeling? And to grab hold of that is that I find that, if I tend to shove a donut down my mouth or drink an extra glass of wine or do something like that, it's just because I'm trying to avoid an emotion that I'm feeling. Yeah. But where do negative emotions serve us? And I'm just going to give you a quick example. Like when you told me to think of a time and I said I had to find my voice. Well, it's because in that time, I think the reason I had to find my voice was I really had done everything I could do to make that work out right. Like when I looked at it, I would not have done anything differently. But there's another time that's similar to that when I looked at it, when I didn't do the work. I didn't put in and owning that negative emotion and learning from it is important. Like, I don't really like the fact that I felt bad turned out to be my fault. But I don't want to drown in and beat myself up that I didn't do things right. How do you make that switch to learn from it and to move on and to move forward?
So here's a few things, because you asked a bunch of questions there.
Yeah.
So the first thing is this. What came up was, did you ever watch that movie Dune or read the book Dune, Frank Herbert?
I did not.
It's a brilliant piece of sci-fi. And there's this one common theme in it. They have this mantra that they use. Fear is the mind killer. It's the little death that leads to obliteration. I will let fear pass through me and around me. And when it has passed, I'll be able to clearly see, and I'm paraphrasing here, what really needs to be done. And it's almost like that ocean thing, right? Letting it pass through you and go. So that's the first thing that came up. The second thing that came up was this, is, those negative emotions, are they useful? Heck yeah. So let me just tell you right now, Meredith, you suck and I suck in terms of our physicality. But if we were in a car and another car was actually going to give us a head-on collision, in that moment of holy crap, instantly we go into fight or flight. Mm-hmm. We have lightning fast reflexes. We're the strongest we're ever going to be in our lifetimes. We have the ability to blot out pain. We have the ability to go for hours if we need to in terms of stamina. We are at the height of our powers of physicality when it's one of those near-death things. The same thing is true for anger. Anger is the energy to change. What we've been trained to do is this: when anger happens and somebody's doing this thing, that we shut down or we lash out. When we need to realize is, oh, I'm feeling angry. That's the energy for change. And then when you ask, what am I angry about? Oh, I don't have a voice. And then we say, okay, how can I use this energy to have a voice? That doesn't mean you scream at the person, but use the energy. Anger is the ability to create change. Fear is the energy to be at your physical best, like superhuman. And what happens is that as we move forward in life, are we going to have areas where we get angry or we get fearful or we doubt ourselves? Absolutely. So what happens is this, and you kind of articulated this when you were talking, is like, on this one time I did everything perfectly and the person said that and it just didn't make any sense. But there was another time where I didn't. What happens is we have these past events that have happened. Either we screwed up or people did something to us and they screwed up. What happens is, think of it like a tether from my back going back to that event. So it's this string that has a certain resonance. Mm-hmm. And it's pulling us back. So this energy that we need now that is being pulled back to that event. And your significant other says something like, Meredith, did you lock the car? And all of a sudden you go, what do you mean lock the car? And you freak out over this silly little thing. It's got nothing to do with what he said. Is what he said had a resonance with this thing in the past that you had. Yeah. And the energy comes from that past event, not from what he said. And so when we go back and we heal those things in the past, what it ends up doing is it disconnects that, number one, which frees you. So your husband can say, did you lock the car? And it's like, sure, I did. Or a client says it. So we disconnect ourselves there. Number two, it's not the past holding on to us. It's us holding on to the past that takes a lot of our energy, is trapped holding on to that past event where there was injustice. Mm-hmm. And as soon as we disconnect from that, the energy comes back to us in here and now, so we can build the future that we want. So once we decode what it means to be a human being, how to take charge of our mindset, which really means taking charge of our emotions. Yeah. So a lot of times people set a goal in the future. This is what I want to accomplish. And because we have all those things holding us back, our dreams are smaller than they should be. And if that doesn't break your heart, it should. But when we become powerful and we step into who we're always meant to be, then our dreams are bigger. Our impact on the world is bigger. Because I want you to know that the Maker, when they put us on earth, it wasn't like, how can we get them to live smaller lives? It's like, I've given them everything they possibly need to have magnificent lives. And God weeps when we don't do that.
So there are so many more questions I want to ask you, but we've really come to the close of this show. So I need to have you back on because I want to do round 2 with this. But 2 last questions I want to ask. Yes. Number 1 is, if I'm just starting this journey, what is your advice for what can I do to work on my mindset every day? What's a practice? And the second is, how do our listeners find out more about you, more about your work, and more about what they can do to strengthen their mindsets and build their resilience?
So 2 things. Everybody's heard of a gratitude journal. Mm-hmm. I am grateful for my house. Who cares? But if we ask that one question beyond that, I am grateful for my house because it gives me a place to think. The because is more important than the thing itself. So what I would suggest every morning is starting out the day with listing 10 things that you're grateful for. I am grateful for Meridith because she's a kindred spirit that's making the world a better place. And that brings me happiness. And so doing that every day will change the way you see the world, because the second day you need to do 10. And by the third day, you're racking your brain all day long looking for gratitude, and you start finding it. So that would be my one advice. I'm grateful for X because sentence is huge. 10 of those a day. So best way to connect with me is through nolimitselling.com. And we'll put the links at the bottom, but I've got a training coming up teaching people how to take charge of their mindset starting March 10th. And all of this stuff that we're doing over a 6-week journey, I'm going to show you how to switch on awesomeness in your life. And you'll go from before Umar and after Umar will be how you define your life.
Oh, I love it. All right. Well, I really encourage everyone to check out nolimitselling.com and really look into that training, because truly, if you get the mindset right, everything else is going to begin to take care of itself. So thank you again, Umar, for joining us. And again, I want to go round 2 because I've got a lot of other questions that I want to ask and I want to learn about mindset. So we'll have to have you back.
Meridith, thank you so much for having me, and everyone have an amazing day.
All right. Well, join us again for another episode of Thriving in Uncertainty. And don't forget to check out my website, valuespeaker.com, the term valuespeaker.com. There you can get lots of tools and resources to help you turn all of this uncertainty to your competitive advantage. We'll see you next week.